Blessed love, this is Rastafari representing for the Lion's Voice. Seeing? Yeah, man. Keep it locked right here, sir. On to Zion we go. Lion voice don't move slow, no. Rastafari rules and reigns, and we're going where the blessings flow. Keep it locked right here, sir. Seeing? Rastafari said that. Lion's Voice.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it's Exodus. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the Lion's Voice.
African pride, root of all nations, boy. I tried with the lion, the Rastafari. Lion of it tried with lioness like I too. Empress on the front line, we need you. Well, this is Medicine, the steady one, and you are now tuned in to the Lion's Voice Network. What the lion fought for do? Scorch them. Roast and parch them.
I will never stop, hail the Most High. And I will never stop, call Rastafari. Blessed love, this is Kushite representing for the Lion's Voice. We are here to tell our own story, Rastafari.
Empress Manel, and I young Zion. Oh, your role universally unfold. Be told, Blessed love, this is Itege Idama, and it's time for the lioness and the lion's voices to be heard. This is the Lion's Voice, Rastafari.
Yo, blazing fire, yeah man, this is Rasindio out of Belize, and the time has come for the lions to tell our own story, right? Yeah man, we blaze fire, burning the wicked and the dirty vampire. Yeah man, Rasindio said that, blazing fire, lion voice.
Lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.
Yeah, Rastafari, Emperor Haile Selassie the first. Tell the people about Empress Mene. Well, even if the stars they fall and the moon turn into blood, but to the coming while we stand tall, I will shower you with my love. And even when the people start ball, cause they see the city streets them flood, but when the hurricane blow down their wall, I'll be by your side, I mean I'm but think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day of the night time. Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your love was a lifeline. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day of the night time. Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, that light was a lifeline. It seems like the world is upside down. I will never hide, I'd rather stand my ground. Lion of Judah blessed with the triple crown. Can't come fool I with no circus clown. Now fear no hurricane or the cyclone. Respect for Mama Earth with that embedded on me bone. That's why I will never leave you alone. Protect you from harm when the alarm sound. So even when the stars they fall and the moon turn into blood, to the coming war we stand tall. I will shower you with my love. And even when the people start ball, cause they see their city streets them flood, when the hurricane blow down our wall, I'll be by your side, I mean I budge. Think I found the love of a lifetime. Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your light was a lifeline. I think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. The Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your love was a lifeline. They say hurt people, maybe that's why Babylon them so evil. Maybe Babylon abused as a child. Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I the First. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chasmanch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of the Lion Voice Live. Welcome to Lion Voice Live, and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, where the lions are telling our own story. Tonight we have a special topic. Yesterday we celebrated the 81st Earth Strong of the Honorable Robert Nesta Marley Barhani Selassie Earth Strong. Big celebration in Jamaica. Woolipa artists came forward. It was really a great representation for what I could see online. And, you know, I have wanted to highlight something about Bob Marley because, of course, he have a special connection for I as well. I grew up in a house with Bob Marley on vinyl. My father had a extensive Bob Marley and the Wailers collection, and like most Jamaican youths, you know, Bob Marley is your first kind of thought when you think about Rastafari. So he's like the gateway. Him stand at the gate. So him have that kind of the Chasmatch role in terms of being the gateway, commander of the gate for many of Rastafari globally. And I said, you know what, we need to take a deep dive into Bob. So tonight, I'm going to ask the Lion Voice Network and the Lion Pride to join in this reasoning about the Pan-African legacy of Bob, because we know, just like they did to Dr. Martin Luther King, they try to switch up the legacy and make it very, you know, commercialized and try to take away the edge and any little rough spot off of it. They want to smooth it down. However, when we look at this man's legacy as a Pan-African, we just put him into the Pan-African category, and is a massive resume. You know what I mean? It's a powerful legacy. And I'm going to have, this is going to be part one. I'm going to bring a guest. I was planning to have a guest tonight. Someone who knew Bob very well and who could speak specifically on his Africa charts and certain vibration. And we're still going to do that. I'm not going to announce who it is yet, but we'll still do that. But tonight we're just going to reason. I am the Lion Pride. If you're watching live, we're going to have the reasoning. So the comment section, that's where I want to hear from the item. You know what I mean? We're going to go through some of the catalog, the discography. We're going to talk about the impact, but I'm going to miss things because I'm a human being. So that's where the item come in. We want the item to fill in the blanks. Tonight, we're talking about the Pan-African legacy of the Honorable Robert Nesta Marley, baptized Barhani Selassie, the light of the Trinity. He shone a great light around creation, and we want to acknowledge that light. He was more than just a reggae superstar. He was a cultural revolutionary, and he really stood for Black Man Redemption. Famous song by that name. So when you look at what was the message he was putting out, he set the template for what a Rastafari creative can be,
and I would say in some instances should be. Now, we're not saying Bob Marley is perfect. We overstand. Some people worship Bob Marley. Some people put Bob Marley above His Majesty. We're not talking about any of that today. Today, we're just looking at positive aspect because we don't talk about it enough. And we, as Rastafari, are the custodians of the legacy, of the true intent of the brethren. You know what I mean? We have to be that legacy. Big up his children who have been doing their work, in particular Stephen and Damien and Julian, been really holding that Rastafari, His Majesty side of the legacy. His other children hold different aspects in their own way. But in terms of the Rastafari, His Imperial Majesty, yeah, man, big up to those youths. And we want to have the reasoning. There's an image of Bob that I think speaks volumes to his Pan-African legacy. I want to start the show with this image. So the item can see this image here. I think this image speaks magnitude, you know what I mean, in terms of what was the brethren. Remember, this is in the 1970s, early 80s. Even today, when you say Haile Selassie the Almighty, people are going to look at you sideways, look at you a kind of different way. And they know about, a lot of people know something about Rastafari. So you can imagine Bob in this early time going around the world with this image of His Imperial Majesty. At aspects in the early 70s, His Majesty would have been on the throne, during the Whalers period and certain things. So, and then even after the disappearance of His Majesty, coming with a song like Jah Live, you know what I mean? So in terms of his Pan-African credential, we want to talk about it from a serious, means and keep the memory alive. 81 years, we want to mark it. We are Rastafari, independent, non-aligned media. So I think we have a responsibility to highlight some of these great warriors, you know what I mean, who really come and do a great work in His Majesty name, you know what I mean? The great Robert Nesta Marley. We're going to go there tonight, people. So I want the item to use the chat. I see the Lion Pride filing in. Big up all of the Lion Pride, the Now Church. Big up yourself every time. Prince William, big up yourself every time. Our elder Johnny Johnson, big up yourself every time. Lion Pride, let's gather tonight. Let's talk about the Pan-African legacy of the great Robert Nesta Marley in its fullness, you know what I mean? This cultural revolutionary. The first place that we have to start for you know what I mean? The first place we want to start is the catalog, the music, because he's a musician. We judge him by his fruits, by his works. Some of the greatest Pan-African songs ever written were written by Bob Marley. All right, you want to test me on that? Let's talk about War. Taking a speech of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, and making this one of the most known pronouncements from a world leader, putting it to music, putting the war part in there, because war wasn't in the original speech, but that interpolation where he, put that essence, of the song and created one of the most powerful anthems ever put to music. Again, it's a Pan-African song. We're looking at Pan-African songs. So War to that alone puts you in the history book, put you in a category by yourself. But that's just one song. When we look at this man, and when you look at the albums, yes, they highlight the love songs and some of the other topics, because he was a very, he had a lot of different topics. He worked with different writers. He wasn't afraid to share the glory. However, when you look at some of the real hard-hitting album cuts, you know what I mean, Black Man Redemption, you know, we're talking about Africa Unite, one of the greatest Pan-African anthems ever made. Africa Unite by itself puts him in that stratosphere of a Pan-African great. You know what I mean? These are songs that are serious. Look at Africa Unite. Is it relevant today? You know, a call for the unification right now, 54 African states. You know what I mean? Bob Marley calling how good and how pleasant it would be before God and man to see the unification of the Rasta man. And if you really eyes upon that song, he's saying when Rastafari come together, Africa is going to come together. You know what I mean? So the song was very, very powerful indeed. You know what I mean? So tonight we're going to talk about the Pan-African legacy of the great Robert Nesta Marley. Of course, we're going to talk about Zimbabwe and the impact, how Bob Marley records were banned in Southern Africa. We have to talk about it. This is history now we're talking. We're not speculating about the impact. One of the things that I can testify as a brethren who's been to the continent, when you're moving around on the continent and people are bawling out Rastafari or they're bawling out Bob Marley name, or, you know, there's a tremendous amount of goodwill around the world toward Rastafari because people love Bob Marley music so much. So that is part of his Pan-African legacy. The goodwill around the world that is experienced. So we're going to go into the different aspects of Bob Marley, of, you know what I mean, just dealing with this thing. Before we get too deep into it, I want to just big up the Lion Pride, the greatest online community, and I want to just play a video very quickly. We're still raising funds for the webathon for the hurricane relief. So I want to just bring some of the items weren't there on the webathon. So I just want to bring the item up to speed with some of the works that's going on, and then we come forward and we're going to touch on the Pan-African legacy. So make sure you get your ITAL snacks, everything where you need.
Rastafari are among the most recognizable symbols of Jamaica worldwide. The culture of the community fuels the tourism industry. Its music carries Jamaica's voice and energy across the globe. Rastafari philosophy shapes global movements for justice, wellness, and liberation. And its language and symbols and gestures are used in all corners of the earth. Yet in the aftermath of the hurricane, mainstream aid has not reached Rastafari homes or centers in any intentional or meaningful way. Many Rastafari live in remote rural areas, choosing peace, land-based living, and independence from urban systems. These same choices, rooted in self-reliance, makes access to help difficult after a disaster strikes. In addition, Rastafari communities maintain specific cultural and ITIL dietary practices. Standard relief packages most often do not align with these needs. The result? Communities have often been overlooked, elders exposed and vulnerable, and families left to fend for themselves.
Yeah, me homeless, you know, me not have no roof for me house.
No house?
Yeah,
Blow down flat. No, what happened is that it was old Spanish wall. So Melissa just shake it up and shake it out or what. So he has to start to rebuild.
The Rastafari community is clear that only a community-led response can meet the moment. One that overstands and respects Rastafari liberty, protects dignity, and ensures no one remains invisible.
What is the position?
My All my house flat, all the rooftop gone.
Oh, it happened in the storm?
Yeah. That's in the storm I got broke.
Yes.
I was hospitalized for some time. And had a friend rescued me.
Out of this reality, a renewed commitment is emerging, not just to survival, but to collective security. Who was in the house when the storm blew?
Just her. And most important thing is to have a roof over my head.
Faced with inaccessibility or non-alignment from mainstream relief, the Rastafari community is doing what it has always done, organizing itself. The RMO has developed its Triple R plan: Relief, Rebuild, and Rise.
We are here to discuss a draft agreement. This is presented to the Rastafari Coral Gardens Benevolent Society by Rastafari Mansions and Organizations, RMO. So what we want is for everyone to understand the proposals being made and to have an input into our final agreement. Agreement for Priority Rastafari Center under the RMO Rastafari Relief, Rebuild and Rise initiative.
To understand the true scale of impact, the RMO has launched a comprehensive mapping exercise across the 5 hardest hit parishes. Street teams connected to each center are being trained to ensure accuracy, consistency, and coordination of data collection.
Because of this disaster, we're going to have to go out and map and communicate and link and find our Rasta family, which is something like we said, some people feel they're over here, some people feel they're over there. So you don't really know what's going on with your Rasta family over there. But no, we want to change that in 2026. We want to know what has gone on with the Rastafari family through the island. So we start off now with this task force of helping and looking for who has been damaged by Melissa and the Rastafari community. Because we don't know, so Babylon not really look out for Rasta. They might look out for a man who is a Rasta in our community that them come and assess. But they're not looking out for the Rasta community.
What is happening is we want to come back on another day when we can come and talk to ones in the community about what the mapping is going to be. And then what I want you to know is identify some of your right-hand men then, or right-hand women who can go out, who can be dispatched into these subdivisions, so to these places where they can run the information for the Rastafari elders. So you have to just tell me a day when I can come back and I can meet these ones. So you can get probably about 10 persons.
But this mapping is not for information alone. Data collection is consistently paired with immediate relief. ITIL-compliant food and essential supplies are being distributed, courtesy of donations in the first instance, by Rastafari individuals, organizations, and others themselves, who are aware of the dietary specifications of the community. What the mapping has begun to reveal is more devastating than expected.
Give thanks, give thanks. We just sealed a historic webathon February 1st. If you were not there, that was one of the videos that was shown. More videos on the way. Unprecedented mobilization of the Rastafari community. I'm happy to announce that the Lion Voice Network is one of the sponsors of that webathon and part of a newly established collaboration between Rastafari independent non-aligned media platforms and part of a larger entity that is saying now we have to come together, collective security. We're acknowledging that to solve the challenges that confront us, no one organization or institution can do it. So I give thanks that we have built this platform together with the Lion Pride, which is the IDEM, who come and support, so that this is not just a talk shop, you know what I mean? And part of the reason that there's so much love out there globally is because of Bob Marley's legacy. And tonight we're going to talk about it. 81 years since the Brethren was born, and it really is a great strength. Big up yourself, Ras Roots. One of our great Lion Pride members says, "Yes, Bob was one of the huge influences to pull I and I towards Rastafari, especially when younger, Buffalo Soldier, as well as relating to being a mixed black man, Pan-African." And that's another thing, Bob Marley's father was a white man. So the fact that he, was biracial, mixed, and gravitated so much to his black side, his blackness, and really stood on his blackness in his music, in his message, in his mission, makes it all the more profound. You know what I mean? That's why I never get involved with, who needs to be with who and lick out against anything, because the Almighty's will be done. That being said, I always advocate for the black family, because I'm a product of a black family and I know the good of the black family. I can't speak for anything else, but I don't fight against anything else. And one of the reasons that I don't is because we see a Bob Marley, what he manifests, a Damian Marley, what they manifest. These brethren are doing some tremendous work, and we just have to applaud that work anytime we see it. And today, specifically, we want to celebrate the works of the great Robert Nesta Marley, the Pan-African legacy, because that being said, all of that said, mainstream want to push it more toward like a hippie kind of vibe, One Love, even though when you listen to the lyrics of One Love is an Armageddon song. You know what I mean? He literally says, let's get together to fight the holy Armageddon. You know what I mean? So One Love sound nice and hippie-ish, but it's really a judgment song, a prophecy song. But they try to push that legacy there. Of course, there was Whole Heap of Woman and things, and these things kind of get the highlight more than the Pan-African legacy. Like I said, the Black Man Redemption song, you know what I mean? Africa Unite, War, you know what I mean? Some great, you know what I mean? The song Black Man Redemption, you know what I mean? Put some of your favorite songs in the comment section that are the Pan-African legacy, so we can take the time and go and listen to some of these songs. So if you're listening to this, if you're watching live with us, we're having the reasoning about Bob's Pan-African legacy. Put some of the songs, the Pan-African songs, them that don't get as much highlight as some of the love songs and some of the other songs. Catch a Fire, you know what I mean? These are some revolutionary. They came out the gate with some songs that were really Pan-African and dealing with the struggle of black people globally. And this is why it resonated so much, you know what I mean? Really and truly, if the government did not interfere, Rastafari would have united Jamaica. When you look at the story of the bad man them from the two parties that came together, wanted to hold a peace concert under the fullness of, they were inspired by Bob Marley and Rastafari vibe. And these two community leaders were murdered, you know what I mean? So it's very intentional when you see certain things don't go the certain way. The power that Rastafari had in Bob's time has to be studied. We don't study it enough. The Survival album cover, I put it on the thumbnail, big up yourself. You know what I mean? These are the Pan-African. Tonight we're celebrating the great Robert Nesta Marley. You know what I mean? Put it in the comments. You know what I mean? We have to keep it alive, family. You know what I mean? The Babylon is their media is gonna do what they do. You know what I mean? But if we don't have the reasoning, if we don't talk about it, if we don't highlight the greatness of this brother as it relates to the Pan-African struggle, then who can we blame? You know what I mean? We are the lions. We have to tell the story. So We want to talk about all of the different aspects um, of Bob Marley as it relates to his Pan-African journey. And one of the things um, we have to touch is the redemption song. I was at a Pan-African event, my youths in a rites of passage, and I was at an event, and one of the things they do when they go through their rites is that they're playing Bob Marley redemption song. These are not Jamaican Pan Africans, but the song resonates with an African mind. And where does redemption song come from? Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. That's Marcus Garvey. You know what I mean? Um, Marcus Garvey. So when we talk about putting Marcus Garvey's word sound to music and it becomes an international anthem, we got to talk about the man's Pan-African roots. We have to highlight the man's Pan-African roots. You know what I mean? Because the man has a resume that is impeccable as a Pan-African. If you have not seen our interview with Sangi Davis or our interview with Mama Ascali, these are two people that were very close to Bob. Mama Ascali speaks about how Bob Marley came to Virgin Records and literally gave her a job offer, ended up leaving her job in the mainstream to work for Tuff Gong as a publisher. So Bob's vision, he had a Rastafari attorney. He had the whole Tuff Gong was Rastafari qualified people. So when you talk about even how he ran his business, it was from a Pan-African mindset, you know what I mean, and a sovereign mindset because he bought a printing press, all of the means of production. Think about it, he was ahead of his time. You know what I mean? He was ahead of his time. Serious. I love the comments. We're gonna go through some of the comments. This is a Ilebration family. We put any Pan-African legacy of Bob Marley in the comment section. Make we reason. Make we have the reasoning. I and I are the roots. I and I are the roots. You know what I mean? That's some big song Bob dropped on them. You know what I mean? So we're talking about the Pan-African legacy of the great Robert Nesta Marley. Get up, stand up. You know what I mean? We're sick and tired of your ism, schism. Say you're dying and going to heaven in a Jesus name. We know and we overstand. Almighty God is a living man. You can fool some people sometime, but you can't fool all the people all the time. So now you see the right. You got to stand up for it. Wait. Trust me. Serious thing. Big up yourself, Grassroots, every time. Our elder, Johnny Johnson, says Bob Marley was invited to play at the Zimbabwe New Nation, but wasn't given a budget. But Bob paid for 30 people's plane fare, hotels, transportation, shipping, instrumentals, paid singers and players of instruments. We're going to talk about that. That's on my notes. Over 100,000 US out of his pocket at the time. You know what I mean? Whole heap of money to go and play at the independence of Zimbabwe. We're talking about the Pan-African, because man talk about this Pan-African thing. But when we look at who put their money where their mouth is, who really live for this thing and blood, sweat, and tears, we have to talk about the great Robert Nesta Marley without apology. I went through a period, I'm going to be honest and transparent, coming up as a young Ras in the Nyabingi house, and a lot of ones burn out Bob Marley because the whole teaching about reggae and Nyabingi, and we don't deal with reggae. And, Bob Marley, because he had all of this history in them and certain thing, you know what I mean? Fire used to burn. And so you go away from Bob and you go to other artists, you find out about other artists, and you go through that. A lot of young Rasses, I would say, go through that. But I found myself, as you mature within the liberty and you look at Bob with a clean hands and a pure heart and a clear conscience, you admire, you know what I mean? You admire the um the conviction at that time. And you have to remember, you have to go into the time and space. The conviction to go on the road and to represent, you know what I mean, His Majesty, this liberty which was not well known, represent the herb, you know what I mean, represent the culture, you know what I mean, unapologetically bringing that energy, you know what I mean. It was something that I think we don't do enough to highlight, because he really set the template for a Rastafari independent music industry. He was building the foundation, a proper label, all of these things that we can argue the success, we can argue what the legacy of Tuff Gong is today. But when this man was alive and when this man was driving the bus, his heart, his action, everything was clear. And what I notice now, there's a new trend I've been noticing. They're trying to paint that he renounced His Majesty and became a Christian on his deathbed. And this is why the Lions have to tell our own story, because we all know as Rastafari that when a Ras goes to the Ethiopian Orthodox and get baptized, that don't mean say him dash away His Majesty. If anything, this is a fulfillment for a lot of Rastas because of their acknowledgement of His Majesty's divinity to trod within the churchical order that His Majesty profess. You know what I mean? But they're trying to paint it now like he renounced Rastafari. And one of the things his mother, before she passed the earth, made it clear that he never, denies Imperial Majesty. That was the whole chad with the man chad. But I'm seeing a lot of Christians now saying, did you know Bob Marley became a Christian and it's like them a try say, in Dashway Rastafari. But this is very dangerous, that people try to push these narratives when it's against what the man represent and his legacy, what it represent. Pan-African, because Ethiopia is a African nation. His Majesty is the African King of Kings. Rastafari is a Pan-African liberty, and the man represented it in that time, 70s, 60s, 70s, and late 80s. We can say late 60s, mainly the 70s and the early 80s before he passed. He represented it at the highest level, and as I say, around the world, he created so much goodwill for us, and in particular on the continent. Everywhere you go on the continent, as a Ras, they're gonna associate you with Bob Marley. You know what I mean? But again, so much to talk about. We want to talk about during apartheid. You know what I mean? How Bob Marley's music was smuggled into the country. It was illegal to own some of these songs, and how this man, the freedom fighters, we had Field Marshal Tauto, who was part of the ANC Youth Army militant wing, and he said he's a Bob Marley Rasta, So when we say these things, we don't just come here and talk. There's evidence of these things around. The impact where the man have, is very serious. Big up yourself, Stan. The band said jump them. Rare acoustic unreleased song. I don't think I know that one. We have to go look for that one on YouTube. It look like we have to look for that one on YouTube. Jump them. I'm gonna look at it. Stan Roth, big up yourself. Good to have the eye forward, Stan. Heat of the day. Stan look like him know things, Stan have the appear unreleased. Rare Stan I deal with. All right. In Memphis, Caduce, big up yourself. One love is a saying that our honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey used to religiously say at the closing of his public speeches addressing the original people, black people, African and African diaspora. When I tell people that the Lion Pride is one of the greatest online communities on the planet, and I always put the disclaimer that I'm biased, but I really am not. This is really the level of our comment section has to be studied. It's high level, high frequency. I really give thanks. And I've heard that before, but it wasn't present to mind. So again, we're talking about the Pan-African legacy of Bob Marley. This is why we are reasoning. All of us have different information. Put your information in the comments. Pan-African songs, other parts of the legacy. We're going to have the reasoning tonight. We're celebrating 81 years of the great Robert Nesta Marley. If I was a radio show host, I'd drop some Bob Marley tune right now upon the item. But you know what I mean? We're going to just have the reasoning tonight. Because we have to celebrate our greats. It's also Black History Month, Reggae Month. So we have to celebrate the greats and give, because that's how our youths them appreciate love. So that's two songs now, Bob Marley giving tribute to Marcus Garvey. One Love and Redemption song. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, none but ourselves can free our mind. We talked about that. That was Marcus Garvey. One Love, the sign off for Marcus Garvey. Armageddon song, Bob Marley again, Pan-African. You know what I mean? He's showing you his heart, where he stand. Stan say, can't bow in a Babylon, more acoustic. I'm going to have to look forward on this video and watch all of these songs, because some of these I don't know. Tuff Gong was very much inspired by Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I can see that. And we need to do a deep dive on Tuff Gong and how Tuff Gong was set up. I have to maybe bring forward Sangy Davis and some of the ones who worked there. Maybe we try to do a panel with Mama Scarlett and Sangy Davis and some of the ones who worked at Tuff Gong, because we don't talk about these things as much as we should. The business aspect of Bob Marley and the vision that he had. And we can only imagine had he not been taken from I so early. The man was a young man, 30s. Can you imagine if Bob was able to mature? And the man had a vision and a maturity from an economic standpoint that, again, it has to be examined carefully. These things shouldn't be just glossed over. This kind of caricature of Bob Marley just singing reggae, ladies man with the big spliff, which all of those have their place, in terms of the narrative, because we don't sugarcoat anything, we don't go around anything. But the root of the man, it's like the great King David. You look at King David, a lot of folly David keep up with, But when you look at what King David represents in terms of being a man after the Almighty own heart and chanting that vulnerability that you read about in the Psalms, and the wisdom and the wise mind, the reverence, you know what I mean? We don't talk about David for his folly, you know what I mean? And the lineage was not established through David because of his folly, but the great things that he did, you know what I mean? And for those who say, boy, yeah, get biblical, remember His Majesty put the Davidic lineage or the Solomonic lineage into the Constitution by law. He established it by law, and it was deposited among the United Nations, meaning that the Ongal Solomonic bloodline claim by law internationally was put in by the Ethiopian crown through His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I in the modern era. So, you know what I mean? We don't look at the folly, we look at the greatness of a man, and the essence of what Bob represents is really something great. Roots say Black Man Redemption is another great. Yeah, man, keep the songs coming. We're gonna talk about it. Tuff Gong, Bob Marley was very much inspired. Okay, I read that already. Um, his rare Trenchtown demos are very soulful. Definitely, definitely. Bob was a 12 Tribes member. Yes, we've had several 12 Tribe of Israel members who speak about their relationship with him. He belonged to the tribe of Joseph. We're very aware of that fact. Them false Christians do that. They lie for white Jesus. Definitely, definitely. Blessed Love, Lion Voice Network, big up yourself, Brother Roots. Stan Ross say he was tutored by Joe Higgs and a disciple of Brother Kumi. Definitely some of the Pan-African was given through Mortimer, the great Mortimer Planner, who I had privilege to seat up with and hear about His Majesty from in the physical form. And I mean, as one of my great moments of Rastafari. I grew up in Lillian Ward projects in NYC. My brethren, Honorable Charge Baron, NYC councilman, who also was my neighbor, named a street in Brooklyn, NYC, in honor of Robert Nesta Marley. Also invited Prime Minister Robert Mugabe. Okay. So these are the Pan-African legacy. Big up Elder Johnny Johnson. We're celebrating the Pan-African legacy of Bob, and it goes so deep because he's impacted so many lives. When you go into music, word, sound, and power, so many African leaders, so many freedom fighters, so many. I am one of them, you know. So the Lion Voice Network, we can give a ice money again. These songs were the soundtrack of my childhood, these Bob songs. And it's only when you get older that you start. And big up my cousin, Rasa Emil, who, you know, we were coming up. I was more in on the hip hop side. And when he started Ras, he was listening to Bob. He went into a whole Bob phase. I have every Bob cassette and he's just listening to Bob, you know. And it took me a lot longer. And I think it's only after coming into the Liberty that I really revisit Bob from a mature lens and see the greatness and the depth of the lyrics and the messaging and just the preservation of Jamaican culture, because that's another Pan-African aspect, because he preserved a lot of rural Jamaican culture and the sayings, the proverbs of Jamaica. When you listen to Bob's songs, you really get an aspect of Jamaican culture. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. Our man, what? Did Afro Bobo did. Yes, big up yourself. Big up yourself, Grap Lover. Bless up Rasquasi. Big up the Lion Voice and Robert Nesta Marley for his eightful works. Yeah, man. Big up all Lion Pride. My pops and uncle helped me to lift up his stage out of the mud so the show could go on. Real talk, you see. The people love Bob. You know what I mean? The impact. They say that Jamaica never loved Bob until he left, and that's not really correct. It was really the upper class that didn't take on to Bob until he passed. The people of Jamaica, the grassroots, love Bob Marley music, and that's evident by the concerts. You look at the footage, you see the love is there. You know what I mean? Bob was writing a song for Ethiopia with Amharic lyrics, Rasta. The Now Church, I didn't know that. We have to talk about his trip to Africa where he went to Shashamani, he went to Wando Genet, you know what I mean? So he's not just, he went to, I think, Gambia. He's not one of these rasses who just sing about Africa never go. And he paid, I'm pretty sure, they came out of his pocket, you know what I mean? BMW, aka Black Man Working, Bavarian Motor Works, aka Black Man Walking. My first trip in Shashamane, Ethiopia, I witnessed Rastas on the land grant, both black and white, brown Rasta is non-racial for all Jaja children. Okay. Next, Elder Ras Makapi, big up. Rastafari, Blessings, Lion Pride, The Whaler Tune, High Tide, Low Tide. Big songs them, Ras Makapi. Some big song, yeah, Jaffa. Bob Marley and the Wailers, Africa Unite. Behold how good and how pleasant it would be before God and man to see the unification of all Rasta man. And we talked about that, this quintessential Pan-African song, and really Bob is saying when Rastafari come together, Africa will come together. That is what the man is saying in the song, and this is why I feel so joyful when I saw the RMO Global Webathon 32 Rastafari organizations coming together, because don't matter if it's now and it should have happened, or you feel it should have happened 10 years ago or 20 years ago. The fact that Rastafari coming together to I is so idolful, so powerful. We're talking about the Pan-African legacy of Bob Marley. I want to talk about apartheid years, how the music was smuggled into South Africa during the height of apartheid, how songs like Get Up, Stand Up, Exodus provided courage for the youths them in Soweto. In the ghettos that were fighting, they were playing these songs. These songs were giving them courage. Again, we have first-hand testimony by people like Field Marshal Tau, who fought, with the ANC youth movements, the Arm Wing, and he says Bob Marley was part of his inspiration. So we have first-hand account on the Lion Voice Network about the Pan-African impact. So this music is not just inspiring youths in Jamaica. This youth is going across seas and inspiring the youths them in Joburg, in Soweto. These become the anthems, make the youths them start think different, pick up arms and say no more oppression. So they became dangerous to that they could be banned. Words sound and power, and we just use words casual now, and we don't overstand the power of words. Powers that be overstand the power of words. This is why Bob Marley was seen as so dangerous, because the power, and where did the source of his power come from? Source of his power, I let Bob show the item where the source of his power came from. You understand? Bob was telling the people, this is my battery pack, literally, this is it. The man has showed the world. So we want to just again celebrate the Pan-African legacy of the great Robert Nesta Marley. This is part one. I'm going to have a guest, someone who knew Bob Marley very well, come on. I'm working out the details, so we'll have someone who can speak to the mindset, speak to the Zimbabwe trad, someone who was there in Zimbabwe with Bob. We're gonna have, because I want to make sure that we do our due diligence to preserve this part of the legacy. Yes, there's all the different legacies, and they touch on this, they touch on that. But the legacy, the Pan-African legacy of Bob, we have to take care, be intentional around it, and really hug it up and preserve it. The Africa Unite celebration, big up Dr. Desta, Mama Desta in Ethiopia, the Rita Marley Foundation. That event, and there was a documentary made about it, was the biggest event in Ethiopia history since the coronation. And it was around Bob, and it was a whole Pan-African event. AU played a part. Again, this is a Pan-African legacy of Bob Marley. These are just things that we see. Every Rastafari brethren, whether he like it or not, benefits from Bob Marley legacy. When you trot out in the world in a place that there's no Rastafari ever been there, those people still know Bob Marley, and you and the eye will get some benefit because they know, okay, this man stand for human rights, him stand for peace and justice. These, that's the general thing that they know about Bob Marley. So Bob Marley benefit everyone who ever put on locks, whether you like it or not, whether you into Bob or not. Some man don't like Bob, them is Peter, or them love Bunny. They not deal with Bob. Bob too soft. All right, my brethren. But regardless if you like Bob or not, you have benefited from Bob Marley works. And the other thing that's so Pan-African that we have to highlight that come from His Majesty is the work ethic. We don't talk about the work ethic enough. Bob was a man that legendary for the rehearsals, the work ethic. Everybody who was around him talk about that. Not no lackadaisical kind of vibration. Get into it, you know what I mean? And these are things that we want for our African youth as we come into this new era. You know what I mean? We want youths that really are doing the thing the right way. You know what I mean? It was such a shame that Sean, the youth's funeral, oh yes, and Bonnie Whaler diss him bad for years just because of egos and feuds. Yeah. It was sad. It was sad, because they were brothers, and oh yes, yeah, correct it. And Tash Shun, yes, yeah, man, it wasn't a good thing, you know what I mean. And these brethren came up regardless of what happened, you know what I mean. We give thanks. Bob took His Majesty as his real father, and that's probably why the discipline was there. That's probably why I couldn't believe Ziggy enlists a non-Jamaican Kingsley Benadir with fast and fake acting, especially given the history of how Hollywood smear Rasta from long time. And to be fair, we did a review on this platform. You can go check our review of that film. So I won't get into it, but you know what I mean? It is what it is. I'd say they should have put Skip Marley into some acting class and draw off his Skip and make Skip get the work. But who am I? You know what I mean? What me the gang song work forwards to mine. Yes, work ethic, you know what I mean? Put your favorite Bob in the comments. We're celebrating the great Robert Nesta Marley tonight. We have to take time, family, and celebrate some time, because would I want someone do that for I and I? You know what I mean? So why not celebrate the next great one who walked the face of creation? Bob's greatest song was Selassie is the Chapel. Why? It envisages the growing awareness of Jah Rastafari. Game over. And I think that song was written by Mortimer Plano to Kumi. Yes, Selassie is the Chapel. But powerful song. And again, these are Pan-African works. This is a brethren from rural Jamaica moved to the inner city, reverencing the African king, citing the divinity in the African king, going around the world to bring his teaching. I use Bob Marley quote on our community tab, give us the teachings of His Majesty, and we put excerpts of quotes. I haven't done it in a while. I have to start that again. But again, these are part of the Pan-African legacy of Bob. So all of us, have benefited. So all of us have to just take time and just heal up the great Robert Nesta Marley. So we talked about some of the songs. We talked about the impact, the apartheid years, how we use music as a weapon. Let's talk about Zimbabwe now. Let's talk about Zimbabwe. Big story. April 17th and 18th, which the 18th is my wife, Earth Strong, 1980. Zimbabwe is born the birth of a new nation. Bob Marley paid his own way to bring his band and equipment to Harare because the new government couldn't afford it. They had just come out of a bloody war against the white supremacy government, and they didn't have the money to bring no big artists to come play. So this is when we talk about we'll find out who is a real revolutionary. This is where Bob separated himself from the average artist of today. Because the average artist of today not going to no country, paying his way, covering all of the expenses. If you now get booked, you don't have the booking fee, you don't have the deposit. Um, you know what I mean? Forget about it. You're not going anywhere. Bob Marley paid his way, paid the band, stage everything, make sure that the thing could be done right. Again, we're gonna have a guest come to talk more about that Zimbabwe chart and more about the Pan African legacy. I'm a youth, so I don't have all of the facts, but we are blessed to have some of the people that were close to Bob are still alive. So I'm gonna do my best to get some of those testimonies while we still can. Um, but is a serious thing that we have to heights on when we talk about the great Robert Nesta Marley. You know what I mean? Going to Zimbabwe, the whole country. Think about the boost, the electricity that gave to this new nation to know that Bob Marley coming, the man that they were listening to in the bush, hear the cry and come and pay his way and come. You know, which artist of today is gonna pay to perform at such an event? I'm waiting. Put it in the comments if it exists. It don't exist, family. It's a trick question. Nobody doing that right now. Bob Marley did it in that time. So again, we're talking about the Pan-African legacy of this great man, and we have to um, just salute. You know what I mean? It stabilized the mindset of this new nation. To this day, Zimbabwe, one of the Rastafari communities in Southern Africa, no doubt as a result of Bob Marley being there and them getting to see Rastafari, heard about the liberation struggle. And that's the part of Rastafari to I that need to get preserved. This is why we chant so much for Ibrahim Traore, the AES revolution that's happening, because we realize that Pan-African liberation part of the movement is what they are trying to fight against. You know what I mean? And this is what we need to really make sure that we as Rastafari independent non-aligned media fight to preserve that Pan-African part of Bob, because that was so powerful. You know what I mean? Every man have a right to decide his own destiny, you know, but in this judgment there shall be no partiality. On and on in arms. We're fighting in the struggle. You know what I mean? Yeah, them know the rest. But yes, powerful, powerful lyrics. So to come in the flesh after the youth, they must smuggle your records and, you know, and cover the expense. That by itself is legendary. You know what I mean? Legendary, legendary. Um, no church said no artist of today can compare. I agree. That's why you have to be careful when you criticize Bob, because the levels, you know what I mean? Big up Brass Super. Bob Tune War is what bring I the awareness of the speeches of His Majesty. A lot of people, that's their intro. As I say, he's like a Dichas match, the commander of the gate. He's a gateway to the Rastafari tribe, you know. When you hold that Dichas match title, you know what I mean, you're dealing with gates. You know what I mean? And it's important that I all know what that's like. Every rash supposed to trod through at the chas match physiology of their trad. You know what I mean? Just like every man start as a lidge, young prince, you go through your the chas match phase, you go through the ras phase, Migos, and then you ascend into that oneness, the goose and the gas oneness. You know what I mean? And that looks different for every brethren, every sister. Same thing with Empress Menen. But Bob really was a gateway for so many into this liberty. Um, Boy, I'm telling you, really, really just humbling to know. Um, every man got a right to decide his own destiny, and in this judgment, there is no partiality. These are things that become, um, part of the lexicon, part of the vibration. Jimmy Cliff, Toots, Ken Boot, and maybe a few others could even compare with Bob. Um, I don't know if they can compare in terms of impact. They can't compare. Let me just be clear. In terms of just artists, voice, vocals, performance, you can argue all kind of things. But in terms of Pan African legacy and impact, Bob is in a class by himself. And we have to be comfortable to say that because the truth, when we look at the impact of the man globally and in Africa, let me tell you the artists that Africa deal with, West Africa in particular. Bob Marley, Burning Spear, Culture, um, those three, those are the big three, you know what I mean? But Bob Marley is in a class by himself. They, of course, Peter Tosh, they love Peter Tosh, Bunny Wailer, they love all these artists. But in terms of big three, Burning Spear, Bob, Culture, you know what I mean? And Bob is in a class by himself, you know what I mean? So, serious thing. Um, Bob Marley was one of the first so-called third world international global Bob Star as a Pan Africanism or perish musical icon, roadblock. Yes, Johnny Johnson. Pardon self, Bahani Selassie, meaning light of the Trinity, was a baptismal name given to Bob Marley. Yes, um, I'm from Trinidad. Bob is only below Jah himself for I generation. Serious thing. Original OGs. Yes, Bob Marley, a great messenger of the philosophy and liberty of His Imperial Majesty, songs like Africa Unite and Zimbabwe. Again, you know what I mean? We just put up this for the ones them. When you talk about emissary and doing His Majesty work, you know what I mean? This brethren is in a class by himself. He's in a class by himself, you know what I mean? Um, so we're just celebrating 81 years since his Earth Strong. This is why we just decided to take a little time and just celebrate the Pan African legacy, because of course they push out all the other parts of Bob get highlighted on other platforms. So we're not here to emulate other platforms. He's being celebrated around the world. Yesterday was his Earth Strong. On our Rastafari Pan African independent non-aligned media platform, we have to celebrate the Pan African legacy of Bob. Make sure that we keep that aspect alive. We talk about the songs. Again, put some of the Pan African songs for those who may not know if you're watching live. Put some of the Pan African songs of Bob in the chat. We're going to go a little bit longer as we talk about the Pan African legacy. While we put those songs in the chat, we're going to talk about them. I want to play one more video for the item around the RMO relief efforts. We're still raising funds for the effort. This is not a platform where we just come and talk. We also are doing the Majesty work.
The first phase of the RMO mapping has revealed a painful truth. Half the story has not yet been told.
Ethan's Bingy. That's his love. And I forward from the Rasta. The RMO. Rastafari Mansions.
I love.
Miss Melissa. And this is where she left me. Tear down my place, smash it down. Build it up to use it, available material, splice and all the material and get it up to this level. That's right. Work on it, get the rest of the material until we get it fully started. I would say, struggle is hard, but Rastafari will keep it. Yes, sir.
Homes have been destroyed beyond repair. Elders, who have served as the backbone of the community, are amongst the most at risk.
We're going to need a work there. So for anyone I and I who can help out the bridging, because same space there now, the house up at top so the whole light top gone. And concrete house that, and then you have a little business place on the right here, so that gone too. And one next little place on the over here, so that gone same way. So there them can see where I go on and say yes, I'm like badly affected. The kind of on the seafront, right here, so I said go. One love and do give thanks. Rastafari.
The community is experiencing food insecurity, with its next meal not guaranteed. Elders and families are sleeping exposed to the elements under makeshift shelters of tarpaulins. Many elders who are living alone now have no immediate support within reach. The situation is not one of temporary discomfort. It is a reality of survival and health under threat. The data has confirmed that the storm has pushed vulnerable communities beyond the edge. But housing is only part of the damage. The storm has not only damaged homes, it has shattered livelihoods.
Oh, now we done.
Before the storm, the RMO's Sacramental Committee, better known to the public as the Rastafari and Grassroots Ganja Growers Association, had registered over 150 sacramental ganja sites with legal right to cultivate ganja. For decades, ganja has served as a primary livelihood for many Rastafari families, economically and spiritually. But the hurricane devastated these ganja farms. Income has blown away overnight. At the same time, Rastafari centers have suffered severe damage. These centers are not just buildings. They are living institutions. Some are spaces for Nyabingi groundations for spiritual communion, passing on of historical and cultural teaching where elders pass down the glory of African history, Rastafari liberty, and the mission of repatriation. Others serve as homes for the care and protection of the elderly. While others have a focus on farming and economic activity. Today, this diverse legacy of Rastafari is under threat. Yet in the face of loss and adversity, something extraordinary has emerged. Across Jamaica, the diaspora, and the African continent, unity amongst the Rastafari community is rising to a level never before achieved.
I'm reasoning and realize I was muted. We have work to be done. We're not just here reasoning. This is a movement. Rastafari has always been a movement. So we are going to continue that movement. And as we continue the movement, we're going to celebrate some of the greats. This month, Black History Month, we're going to celebrate some of the greats in our livity. And Bob Marley is one of the ones them that we have to celebrate. And we have to do it through a Pan-African lens because we're a Pan-African platform, you know what I mean? So let me see what songs they I them put in the comments. Big up yourself, Jawise. Roots, Natty Roots, Dread, Bingy Dread. I and I are the roots. Yeah, man. Someone put that earlier. Big up. Before Bob, Jimmy Cliff was big in Africa and the UK. Don't get the thing twisted. Also, the first time Rastafari was not dealing with funerals as one saw Rastafari can dead. These are great points. Our elder Ras Makapi is bringing forward. That's why we say we have the greatest comment section online. You know what I mean? This is not a yes man society. We are reasoning. You know what I mean? We build iron sharpen iron. So very good point. You know, a lot of ones didn't go to Bob's funeral, so that is a great point, and it was because of that teaching, particularly within the Naya Bingios, that born dead, born funeral, Bob can dead. You know what I mean? Him ever living. You know what I mean? Them type of vibration, we now deal with it, or so that is very true, and we also have to acknowledge, of course, Jimmy Cliff as a Pan-African icon. You know what I mean? I think the impact of Bob ultimately was bigger. I don't think we can question that. But yes, we have to acknowledge some of those greats as well. So big up yourself, Ras Makapi. Always valuable attributions to the platform. We are grateful. You know what I mean? Jimmy Cliff, Harder They Come film, and Harry Belafonte's Calypso, and Desmond Decker's Scar Rocksteady, and Clancy Eccles' Reggae term with political dimension. Example, Reggae OG icons, of course. And remember, we don't want to diminish the stepping stones of all of these ones, but we have to also just acknowledge that Bob have his own level in terms of his impact, in terms of what he represented to the Pan-African world to this day, what he represents to the vision of a united Africa to this day, what he represents in terms of Rastafari globally to this day. I think we have to just know he has his own place in the history. These paved the way for Bob to rise, of course, again. No man is an island in the African tradition. No man stands alone. So we have to acknowledge the contribution of the greats. That's what I mean by compared with Bob, as there wouldn't be a Bob without those that came before him. Definitely. The legend, the best of Bob Marley and the Wailers is still the best-selling reggae album of all time and second longest album on Billboard 200 in the history of the Billboard chart. That's a great point. These are facts. Rastaman Chant is also a great Pan-African song, a Naya Bingi chant, again, put to music. Natural Mystic, big up the selection. Man used to say that man vank and only sinners, wicked or weak are dead. This is what Tosh was dealing with. Check his song, Burial. Maybe some bad mind was there too with regards to Bob. So, this is a reality. The elder is really giving us a reality, a different perspective on why the ones them didn't forward to the funeral. Concrete Jungle, again. Great songs. There are more Pan-African songs in the catalog that we can talk about. So I want the item just go ahead, continue putting the songs there, so we can just give up, give the flowers to the brethren. You know what I mean? He's no longer with us. His children are here. Some carrying on the legacy. We give thanks for that. But it's something that we all have to really just give thanks for, and acknowledge, say, yes, Bob Marley, as an emissary of His Majesty, has done some great works. And today we just wanted to take some time and celebrate. This is part one, so we're making preparation. I'm going to bring a guest, someone who knew Bob, to come and to reason with us about his Pan-African legacy, as only they can do, because they were close with him, close with the family. So that's coming shortly. Look out for that. But I wanted to just set the stage and talk about Pan-African legacy of the great Robert Nesta Marley. What a joy. 81 years celebrated yesterday. Today, in the aftermath, big event in Jamaica. See a whole heap of artists, the youths, them were there. See clips online. And big up the Bob Marley Museum, because they still are active, when called upon in Rastafari works. They're there. They had a watch party for the Webathon, the global Webathon. So, and they didn't charge us for the use of the space. So when we say more than 32 organizations came together for the Webathon, we have to include Bob Marley Museum, Bob and Rita Marley Foundation in that number, because they did play a role. And we have to give thanks for that, because, again, these are touchable legacies of Bob Marley. We have people like Highly Celestial, the artist who works there, Rastafari. So they're hiring, providing employment for Rastafari ones. We know our brethren Dottie Bookman used to work for Tuff Gong, again providing employment for Rastafari ones. These are part of the Pan-African legacy of Bob. If you want to watch our episode with Mama Ascali, and she talks about working at Tuff Gong in the 70s, and how Bob had hired all Rastafari people. His vision was very clear, what he wanted to do with his company. So this is a very powerful, again, example of the brethren, the great works that he has done, the path that he has laid. And I would just appeal to the artists to look at the blueprint of Bob. You can't take everything, but take the good parts and see how you can implement in terms of the fervor. In his interviews talking about Rastafari, seeing himself as an ambassador to the liberty, to the ambassador of His Majesty. More artists need to take this approach, educate themselves, have some answers that impact. For people play Bob Marley interviews religiously, like Proverbs. People take Bob talk like Proverbs, because he was very careful, very media savvy, although he spoke heavy patois in the reasonings, and sometimes people couldn't understand. But he was very sharp, when you see how he answered the questions, which is why I think his interviews are still so relevant. So it's a great strength, great powers. Before we leave out of here, I want to just take time to big up the Lion Pride. If you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. Big up to the Lion Pride on Patreon. We're going to announce our town hall meeting shortly. We missed the January town hall meeting because I was doing so much prep for the Webathon. So we'll decide how we make up that, if we do an extra something, special activation. We just dropped our special episode for the 60K, exclusive interview with Bongo Wa out of Dominica. If you haven't seen that, The Legend of Bongo Wa, make sure you take time and go and watch that reasoning. Bongo Wa is one of the original elders who was a victim of the Dread Act, tortured in prison in Dominica, lived naked in the prison. You know what I mean? They refused to wear clothes, hunger strike, eventually broke out of the prison, you know, and lived as a fugitive for years up in the wissy jungles of Dominica, learned every aspect of Dominica as a jungle lion. And, you know, his story is really should be a blockbuster film, you know what I mean? He was a contemporary of Ras Kabinda. We did The Legend of Desmond Trotter, which is the story of Ras Kabinda. Now we have the Legend of Bongo Wa. Dominica was not no easy ground in Rastafari. So check out that interview. We dropped the whole interview to celebrate the 60K. And we're going to do our custom, which is to invite the Lion Pride to come up on the screen. So we'll tell you when we're going to do the 60K episode. We haven't done one of those in a while. We allow the audience, we drop the link, the StreamYard link in the comment section, and we allow the audience to come on. And with us reason, and we just talk about the channel, talk about topics, whatever the audience want to talk about. That's for the Lion Pride. So we'll have that episode. We'll announce that episode soon. We have some big more interviews to drop. Medicine, the steady one interview. Wadi God out of Trinidad. So many interviews. We still have whole heap of content from Ghana to drop. So definitely become part of the community. Big up Full Spectrum Faith, our new Patreon. Big up Ras Bruno, our latest additions to the Patreon family. I hope that the item will come to the town hall meeting so we can meet the eye. Big up the item, support the monthly subscribers is the core economic engine of this platform. So consider becoming a monthly subscriber as we build this. This is history that we're building. And also the way that the item can be a part of the history is to just contribute $5, $10, if not to the platform, contribute to the guests. You know, as the Lion Pride, get your economic bullets. We want to make economic impact. We want to aggregate the capital and send it toward our workers. So when we bring people on the platform, they share their link. We want 100, 200, 2,000, how many ever ones who are in the Lion Pride that are watching the video, send that capital their way. Let them get that economic boost. Let us, and I'm coining the term, let us feed the ecosystem. Feed the ecosystem. So when you come on this platform, come with a mindset to feed the ecosystem, whether it's this platform, whether it's a guest that appears on the platform, come with the mindset to feed the ecosystem so that we can grow, we can develop during this Armageddon. We can be a robust, world-class institution that pales, you know, if you talk about CNN and Walt Disney and complain about Ray Tete, we have our own network and it's top tier, top of the line because of the item strength. So just know that we are committed. We're not going anywhere. We'll be announcing our guests for Next Strong shortly. So stay tuned. We're going to have some brethren and sisters from the RMO to give a full review of the webathon that took place, history made on February 1st. You see some of the videos and different things. We'll be playing more of those kind of things. We'll be updating you. Mapping is going on right now for the first time in Jamaica, cataloging all of the people impacted by the storm, taking a very data-driven approach to relief that is going out. So the movement is evolving. It's maturing, and we are getting ready for what is coming, because nice time are not ahead. If you can read the tea leaves, we know what's happening. We know the time. So the organizing, the centralizing is happening. All I'm saying to the family is don't be on the fence. Come off of the fence, join an organization. whatever your move is, your chess move that you were saving for the Gideon, pull it out and start implement now, so that we can be at full strength working together. So that's all I have for tonight, family. We were just taking some moments to highlight the Pan-African legacy of the great Robert Nesta Marley, Barhani Selassie, the light of the Trinity, one of our great African sons, one of the great sons of Mama Africa, who trod through the physical form and is now an ancestor, who is survived by his children. Blessing, and we don't always have guests on a Saturday. Sometimes we just reason, you know what I mean? We don't always have guests. The eye is new. Brother Stan, the guest on the Saturday is really brata, it's really a bonus that we have. Sometime we have guests, sometime we don't. But yeah, we will be, as I said, we will be bringing forward someone to talk. This is the part 1. We will be bringing forward someone to do the part 2. Someone that knew Bob, someone that we can really go into the Pan-African legacy. But again, big up everybody who watched live. Big up everybody who will watch on the replay. If you're watching on the replay, drop down in the comments some Pan-African songs of Bob. We want to put this on the World Wide Web, the algorithm, so that when people search, they come up with this. And in the comment section, we want them to be able to do homework, because a lot of people only know the mainstream songs on the Legend and those albums. Go through your discography, come forward if you don't remember them, and put in the comment section of this video. We'll use this as a repository. All of those Pan-African songs from Africa Unite, Redemption Song, Black Man Redemption, Catch a Fire. We go down the list. There's so many. Jump Naya being the Pan-African, African Redemption, Black Man Upliftment, Empowerment songs. Rastaman Chant. We keep going. Zimbabwe. Put them all down in the comment section so that the ones them who are not here can be educated and can go and do their YouTube search and listen to these songs and learn about the Pan-African side. Songs like War, songs like Exodus, which is a repatriation song. Put all of those songs, Fly Away Home to Zion, Zion Train is coming. We can just keep going and going. I'm saying, family, put them down in the comment section of the video on YouTube so that the people can know who is Bob Marley, the Pan-African vision and movements of Bob Marley. And we will continue to do our part to be a platform where we can have these conversations, and we will never stop. Why? Because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion.
Blessed love, this is Rashala representing for the Lion Voice, in? Yeah, man, keep it locked right there, sir. On to Zion we go. Lion Voice don't move slow, no. Rastafari rules and reigns, and we're going where the blessings flow. Keep it locked right there, sir, sin? Rashala said that. Lion's Voice.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it takes the dust. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. This is the Lion's Voice.
African pride, root of all nations, boy. I tried with the lion, the Rastafari. Lion of it tried with lioness like I too. Empress on the front line, we need you. Well, this is Medicine, the steady one, and you are now tuned in to the Lion's Voice Network. What the lion fought for do? Scorch them. Roast and parch them.
I will never stop, hail the Most High, and I will never stop, call Rastafari. Blessed love, this is Kushite representing for the Lion's Voice. We are here to tell our own story, Rastafari.
Empress Manel, and a young scientist. Your role universally unfold. Be told, Blessed love, this is Itege Idama, and it's time for the lioness and the lion's voices to be heard. This is the lion's voice, Rastafari.
Yo! Blazing fire, yeah man, this is Racindio out of Belize. And the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. Right? Yeah man. We blaze fire, burning the wicked and the dirty vampire. Yeah man, Racindio, say that. Blazing fire, lion boy.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.